Welcome back to the Nullified Take channel on YouTube, where we've got the TNT takes for you on Survivor 44, episode 10. That's right, I'm your host, Chris, and with me today is my co-host, Jake. We're all alone because, sadly, Jake, Russell Muscle had to pull out last minute for a very legitimate reason. He is currently at a swimming event. For those who don't know, he's a swimming coach, and apparently somebody threw up in the swimming pool, so it put everything back because they had to clear it out and clean it. And it just doesn't sound like a fun time, to be honest, Jake. I'd much rather do this.
Yeah, sucks to suck. Sorry, Russell. We'll just have to do this without you.
We'll get Russell back on. Russell is a friend of the channel. He feels absolutely gutted that he couldn't be here tonight to do this with us because he was really amped and looking forward to it. Yeah, sorry, Chris. I might have shared too much information. Christian, welcome back. Ryan, welcome back. Muskid, good to see you back in the live as well. Before Daddy Cap, welcome. Georgette Sparkles, Dolores. So many familiar faces back here in the live with us again this evening. We love seeing you guys here weekly with us. And Jake, I'm on the ropes, mate. I've got one person left in the draft. It's been rough. It's been rough on both you and I. I think Kahuna's come in and just bloody schooled us. You know, he takes a break for 2 seasons, doesn't watch Survivor, comes in with none of the biases that we had coming in, thinking that we knew the edit, thinking that we knew what the meta plays were, and he's just bloody killing us at the moment on the draft.
Do you think he was lying? Do you think he tricked us?
Yeah, he did homework.
Do you think that he's actually been meticulously studying these past seasons and
no.
up?
I think he came in full tilt boogie to the specific draft, right? And the best way to play Survivor these days is not to study the game. Would you agree to that, Jake? Because I feel like knowing the game might actually hurt you playing it in the current state.
Yeah, it's kind of no rule. None of the old rules apply nowadays. Yeah,
it's a different game for sure. But we come back to Tribal Council, I should say, and one of the things that confused me and I couldn't remember it was I didn't realize Danny voted with Carson and the rest of them on the previous vote, but apparently Danny was in on the vote. Him and Carson has a conversation. It looks like he's a lot closer to him than what I even thought. But, I just continue to be so impressed by Carson and all of his tentacles that he has with so many different people. Clearly, socially, he is playing, in my opinion, one of the best games that we've seen this season because, he's talking to Danny this episode. He's damage controlling with Jamie early on and letting Jamie feel okay with the fact that Kane was just voted out as well.
For sure. I think Carson is playing really, really good right now. He's got kind of everyone on his side. I think, the only time we've really seen his name brought up is we saw it in the preview for next episode. But as we know, that's probably going to be a misdirect. So he's just in a really strong spot. Him and Yam Yam and I guess not really Carolyn anymore because they kind of turned on her, playing the middle really well.
Yeah, no, he's doing such a good job. The one thing that stood out for me, though, was when he was talking to Jamie, he was saying, Kane told me about your idol, and I couldn't tell you before the vote. I had to vote him out first, and now I'm coming to you to let you know why. I mean, it's such a weak argument, and I can't believe that people are still getting away with that because we've seen that for so many years. And why do people believe that?
I really don't know. In the moment, I was like, come on, Jamie, come on. That's a load of BS. He couldn't tell you beforehand. What? If anything, you would tell if supposedly your relationship is so strong. I wasn't buying it.
Yeah. I mean, maybe she didn't buy it. We didn't see the confessional of her saying, I don't think that he's telling the truth because they clearly have an agenda with Jamie's edit this season. She is the goof this season. She is Simon from Australian Survivor. Really, somebody's got to fill that role, and they're really sort of throwing her under the bus with this. Still talking about her idol that was never an idol.
Oh, it's a little sad if I'm being honest. Just every opportunity they're just taking it to just trash her.
Just
well, at least they're digging it in even deeper every time.
Well, I will say this, and I might regret this one day if I do ever get to play the game. But I would rather have an edit than not an edit. So, make me the goof, make me a character, but please don't purple me.
I would agree with that.
Yeah, at least people will remember Jamie. I feel like maybe a few
Hmm.
seasons I was like, oh yeah, that's the girl with the fake idol, the one that everybody had to work with, because she was so amazing in the game. Like
Yeah,
you're
of course.
Angelina's, she's like I think a less effective version of Angelina. Actually, might be even more of a fair comparison.
I like that comparison a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. Chris here in the live says Carson would disagree. He studied those 3D printed puzzles. That's true. I mean, the strategy side of it is hard to like study and have a plan because, and that's another thing that sort of, I was thinking about it this morning before we came up on the live, Jake. It's interesting where Survivor now is twist heavy. It's let's change the format heavy, but it's all on the front end of the season so far because we've actually had what 3 episodes in a row now that kind of feels almost normal. Like there's been no new idols planted. Obviously, everybody goes in idol hunts.
Hmm.
Specific episode. And, even with the sanctuary, I thought they would bring something in. I thought there would be an advantage. There would be the knowledge is power. Like, I'm so traumatized by Jeff throwing so much into the game these days that I kind of, I expect the worst going into an episode.
Yeah, same here. I haven't even really been thinking about it that much because I guess I started to get used to it with the 2 episodes before this. But yeah, nothing too crazy this episode, just keeping it simple and look where it gets us. Good episode.
Yeah, and it's weird because now it feels like back in the day, I would almost want it the other way. I would almost want it. Let's get the beginning of the season slower. Let's get people focusing on the interpersonal connections, the personalities of people, things like that, which we are seeing now later in the season. But I would feel more connected to them when they get blindsided later on. Like there's too many.
Right.
I don't know. There's a disconnect for me sometimes in the way that the
Hmm.
story is being told, and I'm almost wondering if it's the wrong way around. We start so heavy. We've got so many different things thrown at us in the beginning of the game, which doesn't focus enough on the people. And now we're focusing on them very late when we should already be invested in the characters, if you get what I'm saying. But we're
I
not in some
yeah.
of them.
Yeah, I think the ideal situation is yeah, get invested at the beginning, kind of learn the interpersonal workings, and then kind of ramp up the strategy when you already kind of know these people.
Yeah. Jay here with the biggest TNT take of the live so far, saying Jamie is silently getting a shock winner edit. They're trying to throw us off the scene so that we're surprised when she wins. Here comes Erica or Gabler
Hmm.
2.0. I think that with Gabler, by this time, we were on to Gabler around this time. Like it was about 2 or 3 episodes into the merge. We are like, maybe he's got a
Yeah.
chance. I don't know about Jay. I don't know if I'm with you on this one, Jay, but I do love wild theories. And the best of all is you've got nothing to lose because if she doesn't win, you just be like, oh, that was obvious. But if she does win, you could be like, I was the mad genius who
Yeah.
saw it when nobody else did. So I like that those types of calls. Before Danny Cap says, I think Jamie is sweet, but I don't see her as a winner. Yep.
Yeah.
Dolores, look what happens when they stop the gimmicks of fake idols, one thing right after another, and you allow players to actually play. Yeah, it's a thing of beauty, Dolores. You'd think that there may be a show out there with about 40 seasons of a track record, that has done this in the past. So maybe they should go look at that show instead of
Maybe.
trying to reinvent it. Okay, so the reward challenge in this one, quite interesting, because we don't see many reward challenges these days anymore. Were you as shocked as I was to actually see them do something different here, bring the sanctuary in just for the sanctuary, really not to, yeah, like I said, I mean, I thought, okay, cool, we're seeing this reward challenge because the sanctuaries, there's going to be something there. There's going to be like a power in the game or something that someone's going to get. Were you as surprised that it was actually just there to set Franny up?
I was a bit surprised. Yeah, I thought there would be something. Yeah, like maybe a clue or something. Or well, I guess they don't really do clues anymore. But yeah, just kind of giving something. Um, but hey, I am perfectly fine with just reading letters and getting to know more about these people.
Were there any letters that stood out for you? Any emotional connections that you made with the letters from home? Because I'm trying to think now. I watched this episode when it just came out, and I can't, for the life of me, remember a specific person's letter that really got me.
Um, I remember Lauren's. She talks about her dad and how
Right?
her
Yeah, that's a good one.
dad's talked about how like he's proud of her, and like, he hasn't really been very emotional. Um, so that was really sweet to see. She seemed like really, really genuinely like shocked and touched by it.
Yeah, it was. You're right. That one stood out to me as well, and I really, again, I think Lauren is an exceptional person because you can tell by the fact that she's gone through a lot of crap in her life. She's, nobody goes into a marriage thinking that it's not going to work. You get kids, you're thinking your life is going to go one direction, then that gets ripped away from you. She didn't have, even by the sounds of it, a qualification when that happened, so she had to go back, reinvent herself, go study. That's the type of stuff that really gets me behind someone, because you can tell Lauren's a fighter. You can tell she's someone
Sure.
that would be like just an amazing role. Like, I'm actually happy that she gets to teach kids in kindergarten. We need more great people like that with resilience that can teach kids how to be more resilient, especially in a world that we live in currently, that sometimes can be there can be a lack of caring as well, Jake. So I
For
think having
sure.
someone like that, I'd be happy to just, like, if I ever had a kid, to send my kid to Lauren. Like, I feel like she's a great role model, and really love that segment as well. And then the other really big moment with the letter stuff was probably the biggest one was for Yam Yam, who wasn't even at the sanctuary,
Yeah.
and he talked about the fact that he's missing his home, he's missing his husband. I believe it was his mom that he was wanting to hear from as well. So just there's this whole story about Yam Yam this season where you always hear about his struggle, and you got to ask yourself why are we consistently going back to Yam Yam?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, my spider senses, it's tingling very hard at this point. Like, when
For
I was
sure.
talking about Gabler, we were talking about Gabler around this time, I'm like, Yam Yam is always there.
He's always there every single time. And I, won't spoil my thoughts too much, but he's up there. And I can tell he is for you too.
Yeah, 100%. Before Danny Cap says, I want a reward like on AU where they tear the food apart. Yeah, has the use ever done something like this? I can't remember. I can't remember if they have done something similar to this. For some other reason, I feel like they have. Like, surely they have. Like, where they've hidden a clue in food somewhere.
Yeah, they have. Yeah, I think there was in Cagayan is like one of the more recent ones I can think of when they went to Outback. There
Mm,
was like something like underneath a steak, I think. I think
mm.
a Spencer found it. I think that's the clue that like Wu ended up stealing and then running away with.
Can you
Um,
imagine if they ever do like an international crossover season and it's hosted by CBS, and you've got like a Luke Toki or a David Gannett out there and they get like a food reward? They'll just tear it up because they're going to
yeah,
expect there to be
everyone's gonna be
something.
like, that doesn't happen over here.
Yeah, we don't do that. It'll still be funny. It'll still be amazing TV. Georgette saying we didn't see who wrote Franny's letters. Yep, didn't see that. Chris saying I
It was
hope they bring
Matt.
back actual. Yeah, probably from Ponderosa. Are you saying that Franny doesn't have loved ones at home? That's very rude of you, Jake.
No, no, I'm not saying that. Come on.
Chris is saying I hope they bring back actual family visits. Yeah,
I know. Me
but
too.
again, I hate being that guy that sounds like a broken record and keeps calling the show out. But when last have Survivor made a decision that is in benefit of the viewers and the audience and what they want to see, opposed to budget cuts? And I see this all the time, Jake. Having been in corporate for a long time, I just got out of it. So for those that are interested, I just made an announcement on the channel that I've created a separate channel as well, which don't worry about it if you're a big Nullify Take channel fan, because I'm going to continue to do the shows that I do here. Plus, we're going to add more shows. Kahuna is going to host this very own show very soon, Jake, called $1 Million Island in Australia, which is kind of like a knockoff of Survivor, but it looks really interesting. It's like Survivor meets Squid Games almost. So it's like 100 people on an island. Each one is a bracelet that's worth like $10,000. And as they get voted out or however they're going to get booted, other people get their bracelets. So your aim is to collect all the bracelets to get to the end to win the $1 million or something like that.
Huh.
I might not be doing it justice, but it looks good. But I digress. So for those that are like interested in some of my wider thoughts about life and corporate and that type of stuff and traveling and all sorts, there's going to be an extra channel called the Extra Take channel. So check that out. It's linked in the Nullified Take channel as well. A little bit of a shameless plug there. But yeah, so getting back to this, Franny continues to paint a target on her back, Jake, because she can't not win. I mean, it's admirable. Like Franny for the challenge. We need to see her on the challenge, which is a show all about challenges. But in Survivor, you need to learn how to manage your threat level, which she doesn't know how to do because apparently Survivor is only meant to be played full tilt boogie, Jake. There is no subtlety.
Terrible advice given by Jeff to Franny. I mean, come on. Obviously, it was after she had already kind of built up her threat, but yeah, I mean, imagine it's what other game besides Survivor where it's like, try not to be so good. Try to be less good. You know, it's that's what I love about the show. It's like nothing is obvious. You got to know the ins and outs to kind of
Big Brother was like that. Have you ever watched Big Brother, Jake, at all?
Oh, I have. Yeah. I guess it's similar. Yeah.
Because I mean, my favorite reality TV star of all time, like this, like Dr. Will, man, like Tony is like very close second, Tony Blockhorse, but like it is funny because Survivor's the more favorite, TV show, but Dr. Will understood threat management and threat level management from that very first season and through every single freaking challenge so he could get to the end. Now, I'm not suggesting everybody goes out and does that, but he had an understanding of it back in like, what was this, 2001? That's insane to me. And
he was on,
there's still people who don't get it.
It's funny. It's hilarious to see and just fascinating to see, how people like Richard Hatch and Dr. Will understood the game from the very beginning. There was no, it's just like you just assume, oh, I don't know what this is. Like you assume, especially with Survivor, like, oh, this is going to be like survival, but no, it's way more. Oh, I love it.
Yeah, it's funny, Chris. Dr. Wall was there for the win and didn't win anything until the end. He was there for money and a good time. His what do they call himself? Chilltown. His Chilltown partner, Boogie. You don't want to go that full tilt Boogie. He's a bit of a mess at the moment.
I don't know. I haven't heard much.
I don't know if this is the podcast. I don't know if this is the podcast for
not
it, but
the time.
I had to connect the two. Jacob saying the new strategy is to 3D print every puzzle so you can automatically win the puzzles. That's true. Well, it's working for Carson. And
it is, man.
Again, I hate sounding like a broken record. Survivor should not look at this as a good thing. They should say, well, people are like Jeff is like, oh, people work us out every season. That's why we need to throw 10 twists at them. No, just innovate in your challenges, innovate in other ways where people don't find it as easy to game it, like Carson's doing it this season. But Carson's a smart guy. I reckon even without the 3D printed puzzles and practicing it, he probably would have been really good at this in any case.
I agree. Yeah. I mean, we saw he was good in the very first episode with the like weird, I don't even remember. It was like circles like coinciding with each other and you had to like count how many loops there were. He nailed that. But I gotta say, Chris, I think they're going to see this as a good thing. They saw it as a good thing when Evie was like outspoken, like, oh yeah, I knew that and studied it and just memorized the puzzle. And they were like, wow, this incredible, amazing. Yeah. And it's like,
kids at home, take a lesson. This is what you need to do.
It's like, it's fun. It's crazy how we can be so disconnected with Jeff sometimes about these types of things.
You know what Jeff should do? Jeff should just have like a Survivor theme park somewhere in Los Angeles and just let players go and practice there before they go on the show. Like just, and promote it and be like, hey, these are the challenges that we're going to have out there on the show. You should go and pay $30 or $100 for entry, however much it's going to cost. And you can practice on all of our immunity challenges before you even get there. You'll probably make a buck.
Yeah. Or just hold like a boot camp, like just training them to be Survivor players. You can have
Boston Rob there as a coach.
Exactly.
And coach.
Oh my.
But listen, I'm selling it to myself. If that thing ever gets created, like if Boston Rob and coach is there or co-coach Tyson, I mean, it would be a blast. It would be an absolute freaking blast.
Going.
And they need Tony there. They need Tony there to teach us how to go and look for idols. Like he can show us the idol hunt or build spy shacks.
He would bring out like some 4x4s and teach us, okay, this is how you build a spy shack, and we'd get
Mm,
like a gourmet type shack. We'd
yeah.
learn how to build it. And then
Do
they
we
would
get
start
the?
giving us materials.
I was going to say, do we get the schematics for his ladder, his bamboo ladder? Will he show us how to build that bamboo ladder as well to get breadfruit while we're out there?
Oh my, that thing
We
was
might
not
be.
structurally that thing was not structurally sound. That's a bad idea.
Yeah. So let's have a look here at some of the comments. Dolores say, "Do you think production almost got him? He had a moment of weakness." Who is this? I'm not too sure. Dolores, you might have to clarify. Dolores, how about Survivor Summer Boot Camps? What we're
Oh,
thinking?
I think she's talking about Carson, I think, with the puzzle, because he
Ah,
like
right.
kind of like he had like one piece left, and then
Oh,
it didn't
yes.
fit, and then he had to like kind of rearrange them.
Rearrange it to
Yeah.
try and get it in. Yeah, possible. There may have been like a small variation to it or something. Because it did look like one of the more complicated puzzles that they've had so far.
Hmm.
I agree with you, Dolores. People will definitely go to it. Lol, Dolores beat you to it. Don't give them any ideas. Hey, it's
If
okay.
they
I'll
take
put
these
this. I'll
ideas,
put it.
this is we need to copyright this. We need to get a
Yeah, we need
patent.
we need. Yeah, I want royalties paid on this. But
Exactly.
we could save Survivor, Jake. We could save Survivor. Everything at the moment is budget cut, budget cut, budget cut. What if they created this theme park and it allowed for them to go back to 39 days? What if they created this theme
Mm,
park and it allowed for them to go to different locations?
more
Would you be
funding.
in on that, Chris? Like it's more funding to the show because clearly that everything that they're doing is budget cuts right now. So I'm just saying, different ideas. I would definitely go
Yeah.
though, even though I would hate it if every single replica that's in there makes it into the next season every single time. Dolores says, Jake, Chris, the two of you should collaborate and put a boot camp together. If you build, they will come.
The
True. Hey,
nullified camp.
yeah. And then the
Yeah.
final challenge could be the nullifier. This is why you get nullified if you're not good enough.
And one of the challenges is you have to swim. I guess you can't really swim from Arizona all the way to New Zealand, all the way
Yeah.
from my house to Chris's house.
Before Daddy Cap says, yes, coaches season, the coaches don't get voted out, but if someone on their team wins, they win money, the same amount of money. Oh, right. Yeah, almost like they did they were trying to do it in Big Brother until they really weren't
And
trying.
yeah, didn't they kind of do that? I mean, isn't that kind of like Champions, South Africa?
Yeah, but it's slightly different. So, for those that are not aware, South Africa had a season called Survivor Champions. I don't know why it was called Champions, but they had two champions basically in each. It's like coaches in each team, but the two champions weren't previous Survivor players. They were sports stars. So imagine like Danny McRae coming in, getting his own, tribe, and then someone else getting their own tribe. So it was like both the national soccer captain and the rugby captain came into two different tribes, but they really lacked an understanding of the game, especially the soccer guy. The rugby guy got it towards the end, but yeah, it wasn't one of my favorite seasons because I felt like it took away more than did good, to be honest. So Chris is in. If it means we can get out of Fiji, she's in. We can definitely do it. So Franny does win, and I did want to talk about one thing more here, Jake, on Franny's win. She had an opportunity to choose people. I thought she did a pretty good job choosing the moms. I mean, there was a common reason for why she did it.
Yeah.
So I don't know if there's much more that can be said on that. It's really tough. Not only at this point in the game was she someone that is seen as the biggest threat, winning 3 out of 4 individual challenges, but she also has to choose half of the tribe to come with her. So it really doesn't get any worse for her when it comes to painting a target on her back. But,
Yeah.
Carolyn was like her only hope because it seemed to be that there was a bond starting to form between those two.
For sure. I think that this is one of those challenges. Maybe you throw this one. Maybe you kind of hold back a little bit because obviously food helps, but we all know, I mean, got to keep that threat level down. And she probably should have known. Like, I feel like they notice more when somebody is a challenge beast that doesn't seem like they would be a challenge beast. If it's somebody like Jonathan, it's like when he ends up beasting in challenges, it's yeah, it's expected. But if it's somebody like Franny or I think more like, Rick Devens in Edge of Extinction. These are people you don't think are going to be beasts, but they are. And so when she won those first two, I think she should have realized there were alarm bells kind of going off in people's heads. Um, maybe she got a bit too. I think that maybe her relationship with Carolyn kind of gave her a bit too much confidence with because she knew she was close with Carson and Yam Yam. Probably thought that all those three are inseparable, but clearly they're willing to stab
Leave
her in the
out.
back. Yeah.
Well, it's going to be interesting to see how that's going to play out because Carolyn was so adamant that she did not want to go against Freddie.
She's pissed.
And she was working on different angles, trying to get things together to be able to keep Franny in the game. But I do think that it was a very astute read, again, by Carson. Carson, to me, is like the player so far this season. I just don't know if he's got the ability to get people to want to vote for him at the end because he's betraying so many people out there. That's my fear for Carson, but he's definitely the one that's the mover and the shaker. He's the hustler that is getting things done on the island. And he saw the relationship with Franny as a threat, which I think was an accurate read because, if Franny really did become like this younger sister that wanted to be mentored by Carolyn and Carolyn's maternal instincts took over wanting to look after Franny in the game, I think this was the right move to get her voted out of this episode, even though it sucks because Franny's in my team and I really liked her. But, I think it was the right move here.
I agree. Yeah. Just too connected, Franny with Heidi, Danny, even though Danny kind of wanted her out, that's still a relationship that she could potentially use. Now, Carson's like, you're treading into my territory, man. You gotta get out of here.
Yeah, like, for Yam Yam, if you write his name down, you're out. For Carson, if you're trying to steal my allies, you're out.
You're out.
Basically. But you don't want to mess with the two of them. But it's very interesting that, Carson's the one that sort of seems to be the one that's got all the options, but Yam Yam is sort of attached to him in some way as his like second in charge. So it'll be interesting to see because the edit tells me Yam Yam looks more like a winner, but I feel like Carson's playing the better game. Even though it's very subjective because we're not out there and we don't see every little nuance of what's happening out there.
Yeah. Do you want to know a theory that Reddit seems to have on Carson's fate?
Go for it.
It's that he's the fire loser.
Well, he keeps showing fire every time he's on screen.
Yes, that's why. I don't remember Jesse getting much screen time with fire or Jonathan or Heather, in these seasons, but could be a big old swing that some people are taking. They're predicting he's going to win final immunity, give it up to take on somebody, and then lose.
Wow.
Man, that would be...
That would be insane.
That would be crazy.
We've never seen that. We've never seen that before. We've only seen people do that when they win. So, it was Chris Underwood, right? It was the only one, as far as
I think that's the only one, yeah.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, listen, there's some juicy stuff on Reddit for sure. I haven't read any of that, but I'm all in to see how it plays out.
I don't know how people I can see how Edgic and stuff can predict the winner, but when they're predicting oh yeah, this person's gonna be third place, this person's gonna be fourth place, it's whoa. I don't know what the intricacies of this stuff is, man. Or this person, I don't know.
Yeah, so I wanted to explore a topic with you. And again, this is why it's so good because you and I, we both became fans of the show in different times. And, you're a bit of a newer school fan that did go back and watch a lot of the older seasons. I watched it from the beginning. And for me, one of the things that I really personally miss in Survivor is the classic alliances. The fact that, we've got Dom and Wendell running a season to the end, and I love both those guys. Or a JT Stephen Fishback, the Black Widow Brigade. These classic alliances. Even going back to Ethan, Tom, and Lex. There was just these alliances that you get behind, and you really love them. In Jeff's mind, that's the worst thing that can happen to the game is for alliances to exist. And I think it must be music to his ears to hear at Tribal Council, people talking about the fact that the era of alliances are gone. Like it doesn't exist anymore. This is now an individual game, which, let's be honest, it kind of is, and it has been for a while, because you've got someone like Danny who one round plays the biggest tool he has in his arsenal for Franny to save her as an alliance member, and then he's willing to vote her out like 2 votes later. It's
Yeah.
I personally, how do you feel about the fact that alliances may be gone? We don't see it anymore. I miss it. I really do. Like, I don't want it to be a pagoning necessarily every season, but I do miss seeing people being loyal to a degree and working through a game together, and then maybe cutting each other closer to the end instead of at any random time.
For sure. I'm with you. I think that, yeah, it would be unheard of for somebody to do what Danny did, to play an idol for somebody, vote him out 2 votes later. I didn't even really think about that. And then we're not even saying, like, was this a bad move for Danny? Like,
it is. It 100% is. Like, why
Yeah.
would you play if you really cared that little about Franny in the game? Like,
Yeah.
why would you play your biggest safety?
I think he just wanted to get
rid of it.
Ratu
Or
out of the. I think he wanted to.
it was Brandon, right? That vote. I think it was Brandon that was voted out.
And then they were able to get Kane the next vote, so he's like, they don't have the numbers anymore, so I'm good. I don't need my whole alliance now. Also, I think it might have been, this might be a little presumptive, I guess, but I think Danny was a bit he was threatened by Franny, got his ego hurt a little bit by her performance in challenges, and he lost to Lauren too in the one where he farted, the challenge.
Yeah.
And especially because Lauren admittedly is like, yeah, I'm not very athletic at all, so he's like, I got to get rid of any threats.
But it's been a minute since an alpha male has dominated any kind of immunities. Yeah, in the merge. It just doesn't have. It's still this. It's this. And again, let's explore this for a second here, because there's this whole thing on Twitter and the social world where people go off on women being voted out before the merge, right? And in the new 6 tribe, there's this stigma that, and it's a stigma that is out there that women weakens the tribe. I'm not saying I agree with that, but that's clearly what people think, and that's why they vote them out so early on when it comes to the challenges and needing strength. And maybe, yes, for men at that point, it does allow for them to kind of dominate, a little bit in the early stages of the game, because you're like, for the group challenges, we need that physical strength. But then there's not a lot of talk about when we get to the merge, men has the stigma around them that they're going to beast out. Like Danny, you look at him, it's like, oh, he's going to beast out all the challenges. He's just going to be a threat. And then they don't necessarily translate. It doesn't necessarily, like, very rarely do you see a physical alpha guy dominate from the merge onwards. Like, we thought Jonathan was going to be that guy, and Jonathan only won 2 individual immunities. Like Lindsay, I think, won 2 as well that season, and she was pushing him on every single round. So I feel like there should be a little bit more of recognition that there is a disadvantage to some of these men when they do make it to the merge, right, as well. So it's 2 ways. Like, I'm not saying one is better than the other, but I just think let's look at both sides of the argument.
Oh, I'm with you. I think if I ever get on the show, spoiler alert for any big alpha males that I'm on the season with. I know I'm not including myself in that. Shocker. I don't think I'm going to be that threatened by you after the merge if these types of challenges don't change. There's just, we don't see it much anymore where they're just dominating. I'm focusing on people like Carson probably, or apparently Franny, beasting up
definitely.
puzzles.
You should look at people now and say, well, who looks like they've got great endurance? And I know I suck at endurance. Like I mean, I'm a good endurance runner.
Yeah.
I'm a good endurance runner because I'm moving. But the endurance of standing still and persevering in one spot, it's well documented on this podcast. I wouldn't do well in that.
I'd be terrible. Yeah.
Yeah. So I know I'd struggle at that. I think I'd do okay at obstacle course stuff. I think I'd be somewhere in the middle with the puzzle stuff. Like, I mean, I am a practical person that can put stuff together and build stuff. So I'm sure I'd be all right at that side of it, but I wouldn't be able to go up against the Carson because I don't practice this stuff at home. Like so you really have to look at it like who looks like they have a lot of resilience about them. And it is well known that women have more resilience in general. Like it's just, when you have to go, like, not that I know anything about this, but if you have to go through labor, like, you know what I mean? Like your body is built differently to go through pain and to withstand stuff. So I feel like women in general have got better, just when it comes to pain tolerance than what men have.
Yeah.
So I'm not surprised Franny is doing extremely well on that side of it. And then the other side of it is you've got to look at who's an absolute super fan of the show that potentially would have built this stuff at home and would be killing the puzzles.
Who looks like they're rich enough to have a 3D printer in their house, because those things are freaking expensive. They are.
Yeah. So I mean, you got to look at it a little bit different. Let's go back to some of the live comments. It's been a while since we've checked in here with the live. Dora's saying, so predictions. Carson is getting one edit after another with fire, where he's got his eyeglasses around him. This is a sign that he's going to go make fire at the end. And I mean, the other person would probably be Heidi, because we saw him make fire once, right? So it'd be interesting if it's Heidi and Carson ending up going at it in the end. Dolores, I don't go on Reddit. I don't touch Reddit. I don't have the app. I post and ghost on Reddit mostly because I feel like the opinions on there can be pretty, like, you just don't need that negativity in your life. That's how I feel. You just don't need it, and I know there's some great, like, I'm not taking a shot at everybody on Reddit because there's some great people out there as well. But sometimes I feel like, it's the keyboard warrior syndrome on there. Jay says, actually in 42 in episode 10, when High got voted out, Jonathan and High was shown doing a fire-making comp against each other.
Wow,
I didn't even see that. Interesting.
Yeah, I don't remember that. Interesting.
Before Danny Cab says, as much as I love to watch Tyson's gameplay on Survivor, the Challenge USA, I think you're right. They would really have to tempt him to get him back. Well, yeah, I guess if it's for a full season, well, it's interesting. They had Danny on Tyson's, Danny McRae on Tyson's podcast not that long ago, where Danny explicitly, which to me is clearly a sign, Jake, that word is getting around about these international franchises. Word is getting around that a crossover is going to happen at some point, because it reached Danny's ears, it reached Tyson's ears, and they said, rumors are going around about a potential international season, Tyson. Would you go back if you got the call? Danny asked him. And he said it would have to be the right circumstances for him to be able to do that. He's like, at this point, no. But he's like, I'm always open to a call. So I don't think Tyson is completely shut off to the possibility. But he did say he would want to play the 26-day game. He would want to be out there for a lot less. He wouldn't want to play the Australian 50-day game, which is fair. I mean, it's a long time away from the family. I mean, if I could choose between the two, I'd choose the 26 days as well.
Yeah, same. 50 days. That's too long. That's so long.
Yeah. Dolores saying, so does having no alliances mean that you're not loyal to anybody? Basically, I feel like it's kind of, again, it's a microcosm of our society, again, because everybody's become so individualistic in life, right? Everything is about me, me, me. People are hanging in their house a lot more. They're on social media a lot more. They just, people have become more selfish, I think, than previous generations. And I think it is also going into Survivor, and then you've got a faster game, and there's no predictability about what one round to the next round could mean, that it's allowed for, it's just the natural progression, which I don't necessarily like, because I miss the storylines of Great Alliances.
Yeah, and I think it's also going to be like a lot more, people are just going to be taken out for kind of like random reasons. I feel like it's just going to be like, who do I trust? Because it's kind of like going to be common. It's going to start to become, if the trend continues, start going to be common knowledge that, like, okay, nobody's really loyal to anybody, or if they are, it's going to be for like one round. So it's like, who do I hitch myself to? Do I hitch myself to anybody at all? Who am I going to go with this round? Wait, what if I need them next round? It's like, it's going to be a lot more like, it seems more random chance. Whereas before it's like, let me set up a solid foundation that I know will get me through X amount of rounds. You don't have to be thinking like, okay, new plan. Sounds a lot.
When you
more
see
stressful.
when you see somebody like Jesse betraying Cody at the end, again, it's like, oh wow, these guys were tight, and it just shows you that you've got to have eyes in the back of your head when you're playing with someone out there. But that's been an age-old story, though.
But I also feel like that was more justified because it was towards the end. Final six.
Yeah.
That's pretty late. And they were, like this from day one. So that's an alliance. That
That's
starts.
a true alliance. Yeah.
That's a true alliance. That actually lasted.
Yeah, so B4 Danny Capia says he did seem pretty tight with Franny, but maybe he felt threatened by her already having dedicated a vote from Matt. Yeah, having that dedicated vote. And also the fact that I think Jake hit it on the head. She just won too much. I didn't get that either a few days ago. He played an idol. Yeah, again, it's the threat. Definitely the threat of her winning and him not being able to beat her when she's in the game. Doris says, Franny said in an exit interview that she was getting very close with Carolyn, that they were starting to become inseparable. Yeah. And again, her new Matt. And again, she was never good at hiding that as well. So not surprised.
Yeah, that's true. She's not very good at hiding who she's close with, is she?
100%. Chris saying, woo, let's hear it for the girls. Jay says, I don't know about y'all, but preseason, one of the reasons I chose Franny was because I thought she would be athletic enough to win an immunity to save herself if needed, but apparently she's a beast. I did not see the athleticism coming from Franny
Not
at all. She was a sleeper to me, but I love that. Dolores saying, this just in, there is a survivor boot camp and they run all year, rain or shine in Vancouver, Burnaby, New Westminster. It's a fitness camp. Wow. I wish I knew about this before I planned my trip to Canada. I should have gone and checked it out. Jacob, Reddit hates the world. Yep. Yeah, it's an interesting community over there. Okay, so where were we? We go to the immunity. We've spoken a little bit about, I guess, Carson winning that one outright, which is his first win, I believe, for the season as an immunity challenge. And back at camp, they have to start making these plans on where they're going to go. It was quite interesting because we had a lot of people here potentially working together, talking to each other that have never really had the opportunity to do so in the first place. And then Carolyn in the middle trying last minute to swap things around. And that to me was the most interesting thing, was for her to put her social capital out there, because I've put Carolyn in the group of players that could potentially win when we do our power rankings for quite a while. And by the way, Jay, I saw your question earlier. I don't know where it is now about the power rankings. Myself and Kahuna will continue to do the power rankings, even though he is doing $1 Million Island. So don't worry about that. Kahuna loves podcasting and any of the stuff that he does with me, like the challenge or the power ranking stuff, that will still continue on. So don't worry about that. We've had her in our top 3 from the beginning of the power rankings, Jake, as someone that could potentially win the game. But I feel like she's going to find it hard to tell a story at the end about what kind of control she had over the game. Do you still see her as a legitimate potential threat to win at the end? Is there still a road open for Carolyn at this stage?
It's starting to get more foggy. I think this was kind of her chance. I think maybe we're underestimating or overestimating, whatever term, to what how this will affect the jury. But if I'm the jury and I hear like, okay, this was like the big chance for Carolyn to kind of go out, try to put her social game out there and try to save one of her allies, and it didn't work. Or that she, kind of hitched herself to a sinking ship. It was kind of clear Franny was going down, and the fact that she didn't kind of see that or like try see that was about to happen. I don't know. I think I would be unimpressed, but
yeah,
there's still plenty of game left for her to make some things happen or to kind of flip the narrative. But if I were on the jury, I think I'd be unimpressed, and I think that I'm going to be thinking of her less as a contender now.
Yeah, it's interesting. Well, while we're talking about Carolyn, and funny enough, the Tika, apparently it's pronounced Tiga, I was told this week. The Tika 3, it's I forgot, is it Indonesian? Sorry, whoever sent me that comment this week to explain that Tika actually means 3, which is interesting to say, the 3-3. Huh. But the Tika 3, they currently are the only real alliance in the game. And they're also the top 3 that we think potentially could win the game. And before Danny Cap here says, do you think the lack of genuine alliances would affect the jury's decisions? I think that would be an interesting take on their opinion. I feel like it would, because if you're not really in an alliance, Jake, if you're not, like, for instance, you're not loyal to the soil to Soka at the end, because who cares? That's just where we started. I feel like you're more open to vote for anyone at the end, and you're more open to look at who actually played the best game, not if the person was in my group.
Yeah, I think we're already kind of seeing that with past seasons where you see like, that person voted for somebody that they knew for one day, or one of the most fascinating jury votes to me of all time is when Danny Boatwright voted for Tony. She literally did not meet him in the game.
But she trusted, obviously, other people. So,
yeah.
and this is, production would like us to believe that the jury don't talk to each other.
They
Bullshit.
Do. Come on. Come on.
She clearly trusted the opinions of the other people that were there, like the Yules of this world, or whoever she respects on that jury, who did play with him. And they gave her a bit of an idea of what his game was like. But it's also why I don't like the Edge. I absolutely freaking hate it, because you can get someone like Danny voting for a winner when she didn't even play with those players to begin with. And I feel like that seems a bit unfair, Luckily, in this case, it worked out for the better. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I think it's just crazy that it was ever an idea to have jury members that didn't make the merge. Then you have the opportunity where you might not have met a single one of the final 3. That's crazy. I think that's you got to have had that. The whole point is the social game, how you interacted with these people.
Yeah. Chris says here, I think Carolyn still has a chance. She is fighting to avenge Franny now, doing it for Franny. Plus, I think that Carolyn plays her idol correctly. It will be a shocking moment and get some wows from the jury.
And I don't think anybody thinks she has it. Nobody thinks she has it.
Yeah. Dolores is in agreement with you. Chris, 100. I don't think anybody has even suspected that she has one. She has been only played to not tell anybody that she has one. At least we have not seen her tell anybody.
Also,
I think Heidi as well.
Heidi, yeah.
That I'm looking forward to Heidi at some point doing something with, because I really like Heidi as well. And there was a little bit of focus on her and if she's willing to cut Danny. She seems to say yes, she's willing to do it. But I do think she is kind of loyal to Danny to a degree. Like, I do feel like they have a good bond.
I mean, I don't think that comment where he was like, "Oh, we don't need you as a number," actually, like that would have. I think that set her off. I think she's like, "Ugh." Like,
what?
Are you kidding me?
You don't even need my number.
Yeah.
It was not. Danny's made, like, listen. Twitter's number one enemy is Danny right now. Like, people are just going off with that, and Carson for some other reason. I don't know why people are just like
probably
not happy with
the merch stuff that he did before the season.
Yeah, like whatever. Like, I mean, but he has said some stupid shit. I will call him out on a stupid, but I don't think he's a bad guy. Like, I don't feel like he deserves
Carson
people.
Or Danny?
No, Danny.
Oh.
Yeah, Danny said some stupid stuff. You know what I mean? Like, just but. Listen, I know a lot of people in my life that say stupid stuff, but I still like them like brothers, But I'll set them straight. I'll be like, "Hey, you're being dumb," But they're still good people, and it's like that's why these games are so difficult because a person says one thing and then they're like, unless it's like really bad. But I mean, like the stuff he said has been like borderline, just ignorant sometimes.
And I want to see people on the show that say some dumb shit sometimes.
Exactly, it's fun.
Coach, you think? Like, Coach was the master of just pulling crap out of his ass. He didn't know what he was talking about ever. He just would say stuff, that was insane. And I love it. So I'm totally fine.
Chris here says that Danny has got to have one of the worst social games in recent Survivor history. He has some faux pas every episode. I think he's got a mix of good gameplay with a mix of bad gameplay. And like I've said before, I think also that Danny is playing in the wrong era. Like, I reckon he should have played like 10, 15 seasons ago. He would have been a better player. Just seems out of place. Dolores saying, Danny is trying hard to be the next Tony. I'm surprised he has not built a spy shack. Yeah. He definitely is that type of player and trying to, like, Yeah, and that's the thing. This is the thing for me that's funny, is that people look at Tony and they all think that, what Tony did's easy. I can be the next Tony. No one can be the next Tony. Tony was a unicorn, and even though he had this is why Tony is my favorite player. I have to always say Tony's my favorite player. It's because the fact that he's good socially. He's got the soft skills to understand interpersonal connections and how you need to speak to someone. I mean, if you doubt that, because a lot of people say, well, he pissed off people in his original season a lot. He always had the ability to go around and fix it, which shows that he had good soft skills to be able to do that. But he's also great at challenges. He's great as an entertainer. He builds all these things. But most people only see one or two of the elements in Tony. They don't see the 5 or 6 elements that made Tony the GOAT of Survivor. You know what I mean? So for me, it's always funny seeing people try and be, what would you call it? Over here, we'd call it like the Wish version of Tony. You know, like the
yeah.
It's just it's not going to happen. Yeah, go ahead.
We're not going to see. We're never going to see anybody quite like him. He's in a league of his own.
Yeah. Before Danny Cap says, why were they so distracted of Danny? Was it Carolyn and Yam Yam who guided it towards Franny? Just following what Danny says. No, I think the main reason at this point is the fact that Franny is shown. Again, it's that threat level. It's the fact is that she has proven, you can only go by track record, that she can win these challenges. Danny has not, he's been close. I think Danny becomes the biggest target now because he's been second in a lot of those challenges that Franny have won. So, he becomes the next biggest target that they need to get rid of. But I've also thought Danny's been in trouble for a few rounds now. I thought they would come after him because he's been shown to find an idol and, hustle. So that's dangerous as well.
Yeah. It's a bit surprising, too. We've been kind of, not had the best things to say about Danny, but I mean, he was able to kind of repair his relationship with Lauren. It seems like they were kind of opposing forces, and they were able to work together. We saw them have a conversation, and Lauren be like, "Wow, never did I think that me and Danny were ever gonna work together on anything." So I don't know. I don't think Danny. Watch it happen now that I say so, but I don't see him being the main target next episode.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. You might be all right. And Jacob here is saying Danny has been one of my favorites this season because he's not the typical superfan gamebot type we've been getting. And I agree, Jacob. And I think that's what Jake is saying.
We need to have...
His coach was not.
Yeah. I love having people like Danny, or just... And you can tell he is a fan, Danny. He was talking about Survivor Legends. He was talking, he named Jeremy Parv, Ross and Rob. Yeah. So he's a fan. But yeah, he's not like a game bot, which I agree. Yeah, game bots. Yeah. And I don't think we have any. I don't really think we have any of those people this season. To be honest,
the full game bots.
Yeah.
I think that Carson is the closest you will come to.
But even Carson, I think he's got a good personality. He's got he's good confessionalist,
Yeah. That's why I said he's the closest. I don't think he is.
Right. I agree. He'd probably be he's closest to that type of archetype.
Yeah, because he seems to be the guy that would do the optimal move at all times. Jay here says, by the way, was Tony a fan or a recruit when he was on Kage? From memory, he was not a big fan. He knew about the show when he was interviewed, I believe, back in RAP, way back when he did his first season. He said he knew about the show. It was something that they watched as the police force together or something like that. That was always on the background, but he wasn't actively into it, if that makes sense. So he had a rough understanding of what the show was about. But I think that for him, it was more he was even more casual than Danny when he came into it. And again, this is why I think sometimes, and this cuts out fans like ourselves, but I sometimes feel like people who aren't necessarily the biggest fans of the show sometimes can be fun to watch on the show because they make up their own rules. Because as soon as he got there, he was like, I'm going to build a spy shack by the camp. I'm building this extra compartment so I can sit in it and listen when people talk in camp. Yeah. I was like, why have nobody thought about this in 28 seasons? It's because he's an innovator. He came in with his own ideas. And I think that's the type of the evolution of the game that I enjoy more than production forcing it. manufacturing it, So yeah.
Yeah, I want to see. Yeah, I want to see like genuine evolution, not like artificial.
Yeah.
I don't even. I just not like an oxymoron, artificial evolution, but it's kind of like, yeah, it's like Jeff throws all this stuff, says evolve, go, and it's like, okay, that's not really how it works. um, yeah, yeah,
One
I
thing
want to
we forgot
see.
to talk about. There's one thing we need to talk about before we get into our sort of draft and where we're sitting with the points and stuff like that. Jamie, this episode, like we did talk about it earlier, but we didn't talk about
Oh
the
my
biggest
gosh, yeah,
part.
how do we miss
Her
that?
just, yeah, her trying to like just get people off her with the idol and no one believing her, and her even at final tribal council. This is what triggered my memory to come back, was the fact that even at the tribal council, she's still clarifying, Jeff, just to be clear, I do not have an idol.
It's like she's going out of her way to seem as
suspicious as she can be.
yes. I'm like, oh my gosh. And and she was like, oh, I'm so relieved that I can tell the truth. Like the truth will set me free. It's like, why was this something that you would even keep secret in the first place? Like,
yeah,
like you should have said it like right after. That would have made people be like, okay, yeah, it might
is
actually.
she not allowed? Is she not allowed? And this is where I like International Survivor more than the US, because International Survivor allows for player creativity and freedom a bit more. I feel like the US, where it's like production will dictate at all times the direction that we're going in. And I want to say that if this was Australian Survivor, it would have definitely happened. But in that moment that Kane got voted out with the idol, why didn't she stand up and say, Kane, can you show them the idol and that you're walking with it? Like, could she not do that? Like, because that's what I would want to do if I was there. Or was she like told, you're not allowed to speak to the person who's voted out, and he's not allowed to do anything,
Obviously in hindsight, she'd probably be like, yeah, I probably should have done that. But when you're in the moment, especially because she was blindsided, she didn't think there was a chance Kane was going home, clearly, because she gave him her idol, but she was probably just in shock, like, whoa, my idol is gone. She didn't even think.
I don't get it, because I would be I know I'm not there, I don't have the pressure on me, but my mind would work at 100 miles an hour. I would have done that. I would have been like, hey, Jake,
built different.
Show them the idol. Yeah, I'm built different. And like it's like, listen, I could go out there and fail miserably, but I would like to believe that even in my everyday life, that's just how my mind works. It always races, right? And I'd like to think I would say that in that moment to try and like get my name cleared. And if you think about it, right, George from Australian Survivor, that's what I admired about him so much. And we won't talk about placements or any of that stuff, because I saw Dolores mention Australian Survivor in the live as well, which I will bring up that comment. But that's why I admire George's mind, because clearly things are happening, votes are changing, and he is onto it and thinking about 3 different plans before his allies have even realized they're going to get betrayed. And that's what's so insane with a player like Tony. These people think on their feet. Let's have a look at Dolores' comment. I think it was one that was a little bit earlier. She's saying, I wonder if I'm being too harsh on these players coming off watching AU, which was phenomenal. And you've also watched AU, even though you speed watched through most of it.
Yeah.
I do think, Jake, that AU Survivor is heavily influenced by the player, I almost want to say player that dominated the last season, because I don't know if anybody else outside of that player was that impressive last season. If you think about it objectively, like if they were like that player was impressive, that player made the season great, but who was that player's equal in strategy in this last season? If you think about it objectively, it's kind of that recency bias, where with Survivor 44, at least there are multiple players that are trying to play their own game. There's not a bunch of people being led to the slaughter.
Yeah, I think, there's 2 people specifically in AU that we don't really have an equivalent of them in this season, where they're just kind of waltzing along, just kind of see where it takes them. So yeah, I like that. It seems like everybody's like actually doing their own thing and is like thinking, okay, what am I doing for me? It's not just like, just hitch myself to this person.
Yeah, we've just got Survivor Now podcast here in the live. Welcome, everybody. Survivor Now podcast has some great content. I think recently collabed with Russell Muscle TV on one of their Survivor 44 takes as well. We're definitely doing it. Hit me up on Insta when this is done. I will get back to you because we definitely need to do that crossover. It's been in the works for a long time now. All right, so thinking about it, right? So the end of this episode, let's get into our draft. Let's have a look at the points. I've been putting it off for long enough, and it's not only just because at this stage Kona's killing us, which he is.
It's starting to get embarrassing, man.
Yeah, I my hope was on you, man. Like, I'm a little bit more wild when it comes to Survivor 44. I have to keep it. I have to keep it on point. I have to keep it on point on the AU Survivor because AU Survivor we had Mucky on there who had very wild picks, but I felt good about these two players coming into this round. I really thought both Yam Yam and Franny still had a chance to win the game, but obviously Franny is now voted out, which leaves me with one person in the game. I'm on my knees. It's Yam Yam. The good thing about this is that I do believe Yam Yam's going to win this season based on the edit. I really do believe he is in pole position. I could still see things turning bad for him and him being like a fifth place, voted like getting in fifth place or something like that with someone else like a Jamie underdog story, coming from the bottom and then she's there. So, I mean, anything can happen in this era of Survivor, but I feel good about Yam Yam as my only person left. But Kahuna still there with 4 players, and Carson, Carolyn, Danny, and Heidi. He couldn't have picked better this season. And Jake, you're sitting with 2 players left. What do you think of your 2 last players in the game?
Not good. Not good.
It's going to be tough.
It's, based on the edit and what we've seen, not much hope. Not much hope for either a win or really like any chance to kind of pile up on some points to come out of this with the most. I think that if this were how we did in 42 with just whoever picks the winner wins, I think it's you, man. You got
but it's not that. It's a point system, as everybody knows that have been listening to this the whole season. I'll just very quickly rattle through it because we may have new listeners to the show as well. For confessionals, you get 1 point. Team challenge wins 5. Individual immunity wins 8 points. Making the merge 5. Successful advantage plays 10 points. Finding an advantage 5 points. Votes against you is minus 0.5, and then the runner-up gets 25 with the winner at 50 points. Extra points, bonus points categories, 25 points each, goes to most confessionals, most individual immunity wins, most advantages found, least votes casted against them, and most advantages played correctly. At this point, I am in 3rd place. Overall, I'm sitting on 213.5 points with 1 player left in my team. It's going to be a bit of a struggle to make up some ground against the teams ahead of me. But if that win does come my way, and if the most confessional comes my way, which Yam Yam does have the most confessionals at this stage, I may get some bonus points that will help me narrow the gap. In 2nd place here, we've got Team Jake on 223.5 points. So very close between us, about 10 points between the two of us. And then right out in the front on 284.5 points at this stage is Kahuna. Kahuna's got a lot of good points here. He's got the top overall point getter of the season in Carson, who's currently sitting at 61 points overall, especially with this latest individual immunity win. That obviously also helped him quite a bit. Then he also sits with the 2nd and 3rd highest point getters of the season. So 2nd highest is Carolyn at 54.5, and then 3rd, Danny at 53.5, leaving Yam Yam in 4th overall for most points this season, and then Jamie in 5th overall in your team for the season on 51.5 and 50.5 for those two. So tough times ahead here for us, Jake, as we head into the end of the season.
Yeah, the only positive out of this is that Kahuna's not on the podcast
to,
right
to
now
rub it in.
to rub it in. Yeah.
Well,
To
we
glow.
definitely, I think we deserve it to Kahuna to jump on when we do
Of
our
course.
season retrospective.
Yeah.
He's going to be on, especially if he does take the crown. He's going to be on to gloat about the fact that he's kicking our butts. And obviously, I have to talk to him weekly, and he has been rubbing it in with me on the power rankings. So I do. You're saved from it, Jake. I'm not saved from Kahuna's gloating at this stage. But hey,
man.
listen, Jake. It's no new news for me. Like you
You're
sometimes you
used
win,
to it.
sometimes you lose.
Oh,
I did win Aussie. I did win Aussie, so I did come
That's
off
true.
the win. I will say
Well,
that.
that's true, but I've never lost before, Chris. How do you deal with it?
It's a valuable part of growing up, young Jake. You just gotta take it on and move on. Rather lose in the draft, go out and play Survivor, and don't lose that. How about that? I think that's a fair.
Sounds like a good plan. Yeah.
Yeah, and all I expect is one cruise somewhere around the world, maybe the Mediterranean, if you do win it, to say thank you, and that'll be enough.
I'll think about it. We'll see. Yeah.
Wow. After 2 years of podcasting together, I'm in the I think about it list.
Whoa, that's crazy. That's crazy. When you just said 2 years, that's crazy.
Yeah, it's gone by quickly. Yeah, it's been good. Before Daddy Cap, let's read this last comment here. It says, no one's scared of Yam Yam or Carolyn, and someone might keep them because they haven't done anything, even though Carolyn has secretly held onto an idol. What if she is final 3, still has it? #winner. The only reason I feel like Yam Yam is winning is because of the edit. That's the only reason. I don't think Yam Yam has done anything yet, but I will say, listen, this sounds bad. Like, he has done a lot to get to where he is. Like, you don't get to where you are without luck. But I mean, I don't feel like he's done that winning move yet. He's going to be like, this is where I won the game, which I do think Carolyn has that. So Yam Yam does need to pull something like a rabbit out of the hat towards the end of the game where he could say, this is why you should vote for me over Carolyn. Because at this stage, even though it pains me to say this, and it doesn't pain me. It pains me because Yam Yam's in my team, but I love Carolyn, and I'm all in on the Carolyn train. I even said it, I think, a week ago on the power rankings. Carolyn is the person if I don't look at team allegiances and who's in my team, Carolyn's the person I think that if she wins this season, all-time great season, Jake.
I'm with you. I think this is it's weird because I still feel like this season is very Carolyn focused, yet she doesn't have the most confessionals. The story isn't necessarily revolving around her completely, but it still feels like they're very focused on her.
Yeah, it amazed me when I looked at it and I saw that Yam Yam's the one that's in front with confessionals.
I know. Yeah,
it just sneaks up on you because his confessionals are not. It's not necessarily always strategy. It's it's just little things. Like I feel like snarky. Snarky comments here and there. I feel like a little bit bitter about certain things. But he's always getting his say. We always hear from him.
Yeah, and him and
before Daddy Cap is because Carolyn makes a lot of noises. Are you saying that the noises do not count as a confessional?
Wait, maybe that's why she's not. She doesn't have the most. We need to add 50 more confessionals. No, her and Yam Yam are well ahead. The person with the third most confessionals is Carson with 34. Carolyn's got 42. Yam Yam with 49.
Crazy.
They're way ahead, and then Carson is even more ahead of anybody else.
It's funny before Daddy Cap. For Australian Survivor, we brought in a category, which luckily we didn't do it this time because it was actually a lot of work. But we brought in a category for Australian Survivor for if somebody had 0 confessionals in an episode, they get 5 points. Just to really mix things up, because we know that Australian Survivor, 75% of the cast don't get confessionals. So we're let's just make sure that some people get some points for not getting confessionals. And
that would be applying to nobody this season. Everybody's getting confessionals. Everybody had at least 2 this episode.
Yeah, there would have been no way for me to know that someone was going to make noises this episode, so I could put that in as a point. Every time somebody rubs their face with a rock, then just give them 5 points, something like that. We should have added that in. Throw sand on themselves. Christian Gal saying, Jamie in the finale, my bold prediction. Wow, that is a very bold prediction, but I love them. I love these predictions. Jameson, I don't know why Australian Survivor cast 24 people. only to give 5 people confessionals each. But listen, Jacob, it's well
We'll never
documented.
understand it.
My side of the fence, and I had a heated discussion with Kahuna and Maki about this at the end of Australian Survivor, is that, they were like, well, only these 5 people were entertaining. The rest of them weren't entertaining. And I was like, well, that's a casting problem then, isn't it? Like, what are you telling me? Are you telling me that casting can't put 24 entertaining people out there? Because I've been to Australia many a times, and normally I come back with a sore stomach from laughing so much because there's so many characters over there. Like, Australians are funny people. Like, you can't say to me that there is no one in Australia that you can put on the bloody cast that would be entertaining. So I get very annoyed with that as well. I think that it's poor storytelling, to be honest. And
it's very inconsistent too. Just like
they'll go like
like
one of the things. Sorry, I'm just still on the rant here, Jake. Allow me here on this one.
Oh,
one of the things I reckon. One of the things I think that we should do at some point is comparing Australian Survivor and US Survivor and South African Survivor and say, what are the pros, what are the cons? Because there's a lot of talk out there that, and I agree, Survivor US, it's struggling right now, and it's struggling in my opinion. And I want to give too much away. I'm doing a collaboration with Once Upon an Island that's going to be out very soon, and I'll share it on the community tab where we talk about unpopular opinions. And my unpopular opinion will go into a little bit of this. There is a certain element that is making US Survivor struggle right now, which I think if we can sort that out, it can get back to its previous heights of where it was. And a lot of people are saying Australian Survivor is better if they watch both. I think both have got its flaws and both has got its positives. So I think at some point we need to jump on a podcast and like hash it out in the off season. Jake, you, me, Kahuna, and Maki all get on a podcast. We talk about this is what we love about it. This is what we don't like about it. And I'll need you there as backup, just so that Kahuna and Maki, who loves Australian Survivor so much.
Oh, definitely. I'll be on.
Because I do love Aussie. I do love Aussie Survivor
Same.
As well. Just want to put it out there. But there's flaws on both sides. And this edit is a big part of it.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, I mean, that's pretty much all there
keep your thoughts. Keep your thoughts.
Yeah.
Keep your thoughts on that until we get into it. I think it'll be a good discussion for those that are interested. But overall, if you haven't watched it yet, go watch Australian Survivor. It is good. And same with Survivor South Africa. Go watch it if it's off season. There's some great stuff. Oh, look at this last minute addition to the podcast.
Whoa.
I made it. Are you guys just wrapping up?
We're just wrapping up, but we could go for a little bit more. We can have a chat. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing good. I just ran home. We finished the swim meet like 10 minutes ago, and yeah.
Wow. I told everybody in the live. Yeah, I told everybody in the live. I'm like, Russell is gutted. He wanted to be here. It's just, things happen. Things happen sometimes.
Yeah, life kind of gets in the way sometimes. So my time right now, guys, it's 9:50 p.m. The swim meet was supposed to end around 8 p.m. They had a huge delay of competition because unfortunately someone threw up in the pool. So because of that, you got to clean the pool out, do all these things. So a bunch of delays later, it was a long night, but
yeah.
Briefly,
we're happy.
Did you guys like the episode?
Yeah, man. Well, we're happy to have you. We're happy to have you on, and we could continue for another 10 or 15 minutes and get your take on it. Yeah, love the episode. It's funny. I said to Jake earlier in the live, I said to him, it's weird how Survivor currently the storytelling has kind of been flipped on top of its head, where the beginning of the season is so twist heavy, so let's change the format heavy, let's throw all these different things in there, and it's like, when last have we seen anybody find an idol? The Sanctuary didn't have an advantage at it. It's like we've suddenly just slowed it down from the merge. Is it the wrong way around, Russell? Well, we should have a slower start, get to know the cast first, and maybe speed it up towards the end. Do you feel like maybe we've got it the wrong way around at the moment, or should beggars not be choosers?
I think this is Jeff Probst trying to overreact or like overcorrect how Survivor fans have seen the seasons play out for the last couple of years. If you think about it, we're all like, older seasons, the pre-merge, maybe a little bit slower episodes. And then once you get to the merge, that's when the fast pace, all the action happens. And they're like, oh, we got to speed up the pre-merge to keep all these young fans, the kids of the show, these new fans that we're trying to grow. Let's overhype the pre-merge to keep everyone interested. And then once we know that, maybe we can kind of show the characters a little bit more, slow things down. But the grand scheme of things, I don't know how good that is. I talked a lot in my Survivor retrospectives. A good story, a good Survivor season is all about the narrative, right? If you close the chapter, finish strong, it's going to leave a good taste in the mouth and you're going to love the season more. That's why I think starting a little bit slower and ending fast is always the best way to do it. What we're seeing now is, sure, we're starting fast. Now, I don't know if starting fast is the good way to do it, but still, we're starting fast and ending slow. I would always prefer the opposite. I don't know about you guys.
Yeah, I agree, because I feel like, now that we're getting, finally we're getting this great story about Lauren and her dad approving of her and her going through this journey. And it's like, it's a little bit disconnected for me, where I'm like, yeah, but it's towards the end of the season. Why should I care now? Because you're probably out next. You know what I mean? I already know you're not going to win, because the editor's shown me that you're not the winner. And again, it's a bold call here, because Erica has won a season, and I wasn't onto her from the start. But again, it's weird having to feel more invested with the players later on, rather than building that right from the start, so it hurts more when they do get voted out. And that's how they did it for 40 plus seasons, Jake, is what we said earlier, right?
Yeah, that's how they've been doing it. But
yeah,
and that's why we like the show. That's why it's been on for 40 seasons. Why do you think people love it so much? So why change it now?
It's one of the things that stood out. And then obviously this episode, the big storyline is Franny overplaying a hand. What is the play here for future players, Russell? Like how can you play this game now and not be a threat immediately? And I feel for Franny, because going into this, she already is someone that said that she wasn't feeling comfortable within herself, and she was trying to find herself and get this inner confidence. So nothing builds confidence like winning. You're a coach, you get it. You're into sports. It's very hard for someone that is competitive to turn that off when they play the game.
Unfortunately, I think the best move for Franny, and now this is so hard, as if I ever got the chance to play Survivor, I would never do this, even though I think for Franny, it would have been the smartest move for her. To a couple of weeks ago when we had Matt go home, she was already safe. Lose that challenge in the hero moment. That way you're not hyped up as much, right? So if she loses that, first of all, she saves her best friend Matt. She wins immunity, but not overhyped this way, like, oh, you beat everyone in the season. In this reward challenge, it's a reward challenge at the end of the day. Sure, you get some good old tacos. Tacos are good. You get letters from home. That's going to boost up your morale, your life. But it's not safety in the game. It's not immunity. You want a challenge, individual challenge. So it's hyping you up in this game, but it's not helping you in the game moving forward. So I think now, if I'm out there, I'm going as hard as I can in every single challenge, and that might be bad anyway. But as a commentator, someone looking over analyzing everything, I think we still see Franny in the game if she dropped out, went and saved Matt in that challenge a few weeks ago, and if Franny doesn't win reward this episode. I think she's still in the game because she's not overhyped as this big challenge beast, winning 3 individual challenges. She's also, now if you count it or not, in one of the challenges pre-merge, she sat out of the challenge, but her tribe still ended up winning. So she's either tied for the record or she has the record by herself at 10 challenge wins. That's the new era record now. So she's a huge challenge beast. If you let those challenges go, I don't think the players see it as much. You think of like these tough guys. You think Danny's a challenge beast. Franny stays under the radar for a little bit longer if this happens, which I hate to say as a coach. I hate to say as a competitive person myself.
I get it.
But what is that where Survivor is going? And that's the same kind of idea as like the game we're seeing now is more luck based than ever before. Now I'm always going to watch Survivor. I'm always going to be a fan of Survivor. But the problem is it's so luck based and less as much as the strategic, the social gameplay that we see, that even if you play a perfect game, a bunch of these winners from the past seasons that we love, I don't think ever win a game in the new era. It's just roll the dice, see what happens. And I think a few of our conversations we've had in the past about some international players and winners, you're like, sure, leave them on the international side because it'll just taint their awesome games they play with the luck-based Survivor that we have in the US version. What do you think about that?
No, it's a fair comparison. I think that we spoke about that a little bit earlier on, a little bit about the potential of an international version coming into the game in a different way, because we spoke about Tyson's comments that he had about it and if he would ever play, when he talked to Danny McRae not that long ago. And, Tyson said he's definitely, the door is still open, but at this stage, he's loving being a dad. He's loving being there for his kids. So he would only do he would only be open to a 26-day version. He wouldn't be open to playing anything longer because for him, he's got nothing more to prove. So he doesn't need to go out there and prove he can last for 39 days or last 50 days in Australia. So he'd rather be there for the least amount of time, get the most amount of money, and then go back to his family, which makes sense. But, your question about international players, there's some great international Survivor beasts, but you're right. The challenges in Survivor US is kind of different in some ways, where they do have a lot more puzzly things coming in compared to Australia. But I do think Survivor South Africa, there's a specific player in South Africa called Chappies, right? And you know he is, because we had him do a cameo on your channel, which I call Chappies the number one beast on that specific one. And I do still stand by that. 5 challenge wins. I think he comes over to the US and still dominates. I do think all of the challenges still fits into his wheelhouse of what he was good at. He was good at puzzles. He was good at endurance. He was good at any of the obstacle course stuff. So what has changed in recent times for me when it comes to competitors on Survivor US is that they're picking more people who aren't necessarily fit, who aren't necessarily athletic. You know what I mean? And because of that, the level of competition has changed quite a lot. Now, this season isn't too bad. They've got a couple of people in there, like, Carson's trained really hard. He's obviously got the brains. Danny is fit, but it's not necessarily translating over to these challenges, which is strange to see, because why does one athlete, their skills translate so well into this, and another athlete, they're in such good shape, they're the alpha, but they just can't get it done? That's another question that needs to be asked. So yeah, and I wanted to comment on your comment about holding back, because I would struggle, because I have competed my whole life in karate. Like, I've competitively competed in it, and for me, I'm a competitor by nature. So going into the arena, even though my mind will tell me you need to throw this one, I would find it hard not to win. I would find it hard to switch that off within myself. So I would just hope that I really suck at what they throw at my way. And luckily for me, I can't stand still for a very long time. So I feel like a lot of the challenges is that. So I'd struggle, doing anything like that. I do want to move on and also bring up another big part of this episode, which was, Jamie, poor Jamie, getting thrown under the bus with her idol. Like,
0 vote finalist, 100%.
You reckon she gets there?
Yeah, I do. At this point, I do.
Wow, why? Because there's a few people in the comment section that also thinks she's going to get there. Do you just think it's because she's got no credibility?
No, I think there's enough smart players left in the game now. I'm sure Jamie's a smart person, blah, 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 whatever. In the game, the editors are making so much fun of her, and they're proving a point almost every single episode for us to say, like, Jamie's not really got it out there strategically. She doesn't know what's going on. And so because of that, there's a reason the editors are telling us this. She's making it far into the game. We only have a couple episodes left, and they keep pushing it down to us that no, Jamie doesn't have it. She doesn't know what's going on. And so maybe it's a little bit, I don't know. I don't follow Edgic at all. Maybe a little bit me over analyzing the edit kind of thing. But I also think Jamie, if you looking at the promo for next week, whatever, looking at the promos, Jamie and Lauren, now the only 2 orange Ratu players left, they're kind of becoming the new Tika. They're in the middle now. So I think they're both going to survive the next tribal council. They're both going to survive the next vote. And then moving into the later parts of the game, I just see the other players saying, Jamie, I'm going to drag you to the end. You're going to be my GOAT. It could be either Lauren or Jamie. I think one of the Ratu girls are going to make the end, and I could flip a coin. Either one of them will be our 0 vote finalist, but I think they're both going to make it through this episode if I was betting money on it.
Yeah, and it's interesting because obviously Tika or Tiga, I was corrected about it this week. Apparently it's pronounced Tiga. I don't know. But it's they're the 3 that are now the biggest target in the game. They have to be, because there's 3 of them left. All of the other numbers are down. You've got to take a shot at them at some stage, and it's the perfect opportunity to do so because Carolyn is upset after this vote. What did you think of Carolyn being left out of the vote and, Carson making the read that he needed to take Franny out right now because Franny's getting too close to Carolyn?
I'm a big Carolyn fan. I didn't like this at all. Big Carolyn fan. I'm team Russell Muscle TV, not team Russell Hantz. You saw the Twitter drama.
Yes, and she pointed. I did see it, and she gave you a little bit of a plug online, which is awesome.
Yeah, that was really, really cool. No, I think I've been waiting for it for a couple of weeks now. I've personally been kind of bored of Tika's in the middle every single episode. Carson's going to tell us Tika's in the middle. We're controlling the game. I'm really looking forward to the downfall of Tika episode. Tika, whatever, however you say it. I think I would love your thoughts, Jake. Who do you think is going to come up on top with this Tika alliance? Is it going to be Carolyn maybe going with the girls? Jam finding a way all the way to the end? Who's going to win this Tika war?
Well, I think that in the short term, Carolyn, because she can be like, you guys.
She also has an idol still.
She has an idol. I think that Carson, people are starting to catch on to Carson and Yam Yam. I mean, we saw in the promo's not usually the opposite happens, but in the promo we see Danny saying that Carson and Jam Jam are the targets, and I can totally see Carolyn, out of spite, kind of trying to team up with the girls, or with Danny and Heidi, whoever, to get the numbers. And she only needs 3 more people. 3? Yeah, she only needs 3.
The tough part is I don't see her in any situation really working with Danny. I think the Survivor Sanctuary, whatever that episode was in the pre-merge, I think that really made her like anti-Brandon. Brandon's gone now, and also anti-Danny, just for that whole bromance situation that took place that rubbed her the wrong way. But I don't know, Chris, what do you think? Who's going to win the Battle of Tika?
Yeah, I do think personally, the way I see it playing out right now, I've said it a few times on here, I have strong winner vibes from Yam Yam. So I think he's gonna win out in the end. And the reason for it being is that we always go back to him, even for things that are not game related, just his feelings about feeling left out. And, the Carolyn working with Josh episode always stands out to me, where we were seen with Yam Yam coming in. The story wanted us to believe that he was done wrong in that moment, which he wasn't. Carolyn was justified to make the move she made. But I always find it interesting how the story arc of Yam Yam and how he's being portrayed as this person that's not gone to a reward yet. He's constantly left out. He's the underdog fighting to stay in the game. I don't see his game yet. We spoke about this earlier where I said if Carolyn and Yam Yam had to sit at the end right now, I think Carolyn's got a better story to tell. So I feel like he still has to do something. He's like, and again, so I'm not seeing all the soft skills, and we've been told about how good his social game is. But I do think Yam Yam in some ways survived this thing. I think that if Carolyn does end up splitting away from them, Carson is in danger. And I know the promo is showing us that Carson is potentially in danger, but that normally means that he's not. So it's like, they could do the double bluff on us here, and he does end up going home. You never know. Bluff. Yeah, they could do that. So you never know. But I do fear for Carson at some point. But there's been some interesting theories thrown around here. I think ultimately they're not going to turn on each other. I just feel like this functional. The final 3. Yeah, I don't know. No, I don't think all 3 of them make it. I do like the theory that people had in our live earlier, where they said that Carson could be the fire person being voted out, because they constantly show him in front of a fire when he's talking about his BBS games and the flames in his glasses. It would be such a cool hidden way to do that. So I do think there's a possibility Carson doesn't get to the end, because if Carson does get to the end, I think he may have the best game at this point. I do think he's got the best connections. He's worked on a lot of different angles. I just don't know how pissed off people are going to be. I think
Carson's pretty easily playing the best game right now, in terms of like, if the final tribal councils right now, he would have the best case. But is he set up? Is the path there? There is, but he's starting to get more attention for sure.
My only problem with Carson, and I don't know how much he'll play into it. We've had players the past couple of seasons lie about their age, and Carson's super young. He's 20 years old. Is that too young for a winner? Will people give the $1 million to a 20-year-old? Does that even matter anymore? I'd hope it wouldn't, but at the same time, these people spend 24/7 with each other. Like, they've built social connections. Yeah. Are you going to give it to a mom, or are you going to, right?
I think it's dependent on the 20-year-old, right?
Yep,
if you look at Carson, I do think everybody really likes him, sees him as like this younger brother. It's not like I don't think if you give Carson the money, you're fearful that he's going to go blow it all in Vegas, right? Like, you're like, this guy's clearly going to do something good with the money. He's working, to become is it a rocket scientist somewhere, something in NASA? Like, so he's going to do
engineer, yeah.
so he's going to go do some good stuff in the world. It's not like you're going to give this to somebody that's going to not be responsible with it. So if that is a concern for giving it to a young person, I think that goes out of the window. And then it just comes down to, do you like this kid? Did you connect on a very personal level? Which it does look like Carson's got that social skills, because everybody loves him. Like even Danny. Like I said, one of the things for me that was weird this episode is when they went back after the Kane vote, Danny was in on that vote, and I didn't pick up on that with the previous episode. So I was like, wow, how is Danny so close to Carson? He's close to everyone. So my only fear for him is that he doesn't turn into Mike Turner and goes to the end. Everybody is like really hurt by him. But I haven't seen anybody speak negatively about Carson yet. Like they did with Mike Turner that season. People were talking about Mike Turner taking things too personally, or yeah.
Well, I think that the big issue with Mike was that he didn't own it. He kept saying like, "Oh, I played this honorable game. I never lied except for
coach
one
approach
time."
doesn't work.
Yeah, and they're like, "Dude, you lied all the time," which is fine. But why are you denying that? It seems like you don't even know what your game is. It's like, it made it seem very unintentional. But I think Carson is smarter than that.
Chris here says Fabio was just a year older than Carson while in Nicaragua, but Fabio didn't go up against the mom at the final. And we do see that bond between the moms are really strong. Like this episode, obviously, everybody, connecting out on the sanctuary. Josh also says Fabio wasn't that much older, but then Jacob says Fabio went up against 2 other young men. So that kind of equaled the playing field a little bit. So it does depend who he goes up against in the end. And then also, the other part that I think people sometimes forget about is like the person who wins the season is the person who's going to represent your season. So you need to look at that and say, well, are you happy for this young guy to represent the season? Or do you want it to be like a Carolyn or whoever else?
What do you want your story to be about, right? Because that's
100%. Yeah.
Maybe,
and if you're in a memorable season, like think about Cagayan. Like how many people from Cagayan has come back and played the game again because they're part of a memorable season. So you don't want to vote for someone. This is one thing I will say to anybody that's going to listen to this and potentially land on Survivor one day. You want to be part of a memorable season. Even if somebody's done you dirty, but they played an exceptional game, think about that. Vote for the person that you think will make your season stand out from other seasons, especially now that it's called season number 48, and not an actual thing. There's going to be less for people to remember you by, Lil Smurfy here says Fabio beat 2 good players. Carson might not beat good players, though. It's debatable. It's very hard to know at this stage. The one thing is I feel like Carson might not even make it because we haven't seen anybody talk negatively about him, in any way. So I'm like, we're seeing a lot of good from his edit and what he's doing. Like I haven't seen much of the negative, and it's sort of like, what do you latch onto to say this is what's going to make him lose the game? Unless it is the mom connection. Carolyn's had an even bigger, I think, edit. So that's potential that Carolyn gets there and does extremely well. Was there anything, Russell, that you wanted to talk about from this episode? Anything that stood out for you that you wanted our thoughts on, or just wanted to? What's your final thoughts? Who do you think? Like, let's put you on the spot. Who do you think is going to take this thing out?
Oh, well. I want to say it's going to be 100% guaranteed. I'm scared to say it. It's going to be Carolyn. Carolyn's going to win the game. I've been saying it since the very, very beginning. In my first Survivor 44 video, I had to say Kane because Canadian. You got a good track record that way, and you have to do it. But I also said, in my very, very first Survivor 44 video, I said, I'm going to give you a guy and I'm going to give you a girl winner pick as well. My guy winner pick was Kane. My girl one was Carolyn. From day one, before the season started, she's doing well in the game. I'm worried too big of a player or person out there, but also Jam Jam's a big personality out there as well. We have big personalities left. If I was going to say, I want Carolyn to win, if I say who I think's going to win, I do think it's going to be either Carolyn or Jam Jam because of how much Jeff Probst has been saying he likes this season. And I think it's because of he ends the season with a good winner. Not to say we've had bad winners, but maybe like underwhelming is the right word to use. Maybe I'm not sure. But I think Jam Jam and Carolyn are big personalities, big characters. They're playing the game hard. And I think one of those two people winning, Jeff would just love that so much. Like you can't tell me he would just be all over like, oh, smiling like crazy. Yeah. Oh no,
especially Carolyn. I think
exactly
both of them. Yeah, both of them, I
Yeah.
think he'd be over the moon if they won.
Yeah, I do. I hope you're right. Firstly, I'd love to see Carolyn win this season. She's my favorite this season, 100%. So I'd love to see Carolyn win this season. I'm just worried that me and Jake spoke about it earlier, that the road is starting to close around her to be able to say that she was in control of her own fate. You know, the fact that Franny got voted out here and she doesn't have that ability to, like, no one's listening to her. And it's been more than once now where she's been saying, hey, I want to vote Danny out. Nobody voted Danny out, you know, so that to me makes me a little bit worried that when it comes to her influencing people,
In
that she might not
Survivor
have the
Heroes
story.
versus Villain, in Survivor Heroes versus Villains, Sandra wanted to get Russell out all season. Sandra never got. Okay, that's a whole different situation. Blah blah blah.
Yeah, no one's
But you
bitter.
get-
No one's bitter here. No one's
You
bitter
get what I'm
against the
saying?
player.
No, Kane was bitter. He got voted out bitter. I don't know what I'm saying. I'm tired.
Kane might be. You're right. Kane might. Like Kane said geeks stick together. And
One thing I
Carson
will
did
say
not.
though,
That's true.
is the people on the jury, it's a big question all season. Like, should the jury truly be sequestered from each other, because they're going to talk all the time? It's going to affect how they end up voting in the end. And I will tell you, who's a big fan of Carolyn out there? Franny. Who just got on the jury? It's Franny, everyone. It's Franny who's on the jury. She's going to be overhyping Carolyn like crazy, and that's why she's going to be
true.
winning the game.
And I feel, but I also
hope you're
feel like I also feel like people are just starting to, maybe not game wise, but just personally, starting to gain a lot of respect for Carolyn. Like when she talked about her story with everybody, and it seems like she's very, at first she kind of struggled with the social aspect, but she's really kind of grown into it and feels a lot more comfortable. And I think people notice that and admire it.
Well, you heard it here first. Carolyn's winning this season.
We can all agree.
It's happening. You can all agree. Now, listen, I'd love that outcome. But for now, this is the end of this live stream. For everybody that's been in the live, that have consistently been taking part, thank you so much for listening and watching. Without you, we're simply just a couple of guys here with mics talking into it. So we really do appreciate the love and support. If you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing. We're heading to 2,000 subscribers, which is a big goal here on the channel. So please consider subscribing, please, and liking. And also check out Russell Muscle TV's channel. He is, he's doing extremely well over there as well. He is on a mission to beat Russell Hans. He's taking him down, his arch nemesis here on YouTube. So help him get there. And like I said, keep an eye out. I believe for Once Upon an Island's channel, maybe at some stage this weekend, there's going to be some content that's going to drop that will feature both of us in it. So that's exciting as well. Unpopular opinions. I'm hoping I don't piss off too many people with my unpopular opinion. But for now, that's it. Catch you guys next time. Grab your torches, head back to camp. Bye.
Peace.